in the world. It seems to me that you don't dive into things unless they have real relevance. So is it fair to define identity as the self-narrative that emerges from a nearly infinite number of interactions with other people and nature itself?
Well, I would say yes, but that gets to the point, it's so broad, it's almost, it starts to lack definition.
So I can take it finer than that. I am trying to sort of find the borders, and then I will work in. Okay, so if we still remain true at that point, then having in the book you walk through a lot of some of the people that you've done psychoanalysis with, and so we get a lot of insights into the actual people that you're dealing with and how people can begin to tell themselves a narrative that is very dysfunctional, and you help them out. I don't want to say easily because that sounds like it cheapens it, but pretty straightforward in helping them reframe. And framing is something I'm obsessed with. And so our identity is based on this. It's a self-narrative that we tell ourselves based on the interactions we have with other people and nature, such that we begin to solidify a set of behaviors that make sense for us based on the goals that we want to achieve and where we're trying to go. Am I still good?
Yes, well, you improved your definition by adding the behavioral element, because I would say the fundamental element of identity is what you act out. On top of that, there's the story that you tell.
Do I have to be consciously aware of it?
Well, you're consciously aware of some of it, not of other elements of it. You can't be consciously aware of everything you do.
And does the conscious and unconscious alike make up my identity as you define it?
Your identity is the story you tell about your actions in the world, but it's also your actions in the world.
Okay. Now,
it's both
why does my identity, and I assume as I understand it, why does my identity as I understand it matter to the course of my life?
Because it's the structure of it's the structure from which the plans that you implement in the world originates. And you're always acting in the world. You have problems to solve all the time. And you have to solve, there's all sorts of problems you have to solve to stay alive. And you have to solve them for today, but you have to solve them in a way that works for today, that doesn't screw up tomorrow too bad and leaves next week intact and next month and next year. And so there's a continuum of you. So that's the other reason why your identity can't just be you. Or how you feel right now, because you're not only who you are right now and how you feel right now. You're this strange entity that exists right now, but that already existed in the past and that is going to repeat itself into the future. And so you're actually a community of individuals stretched out across time, and the plans that you implement have to be beneficial for that entire community of individuals. And it's going to be the case that there isn't much difference between you acting properly with regards to your extended temporal self and you acting properly in relationship to other people.
That's interesting.
So you're stuck with society just because you know that there's a future. You're stuck with society even if you're solipsistic, right? If you think you're the only consciousness that there is, there's still the fact that you have duration across time, and that you have to take into account what the consequence for your actions is going to be on the 50-year-old Tom and the 80-year-old Tom. And so
now here's a question. Do you think that there's something that has pathologized the creation of useful identities in today's culture?
Well, I think each person can judge that for themselves to some degree. I mean, the more functional your identity, the better regulated your emotion. The more positive emotion, the less negative emotion. Certainly, negative emotion doesn't rise to an intolerable level if you're fortunate, your identity is well constructed. I think that any insistence that identity is something other than a pragmatic set of actions, let's say, that orient you properly in the world is sufficiently sparse so that it isn't going to solve the problems that have to be solved. So I might